Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to Emotional Resilience in the Workforce, Navigating Challenges Together. I'll tell you a little bit about Mentors of Color if you have not already joined. Mentors of Color is all about getting you matched with local industry leaders in your field, having community-powered mentoring, so feeling supported by people who share similar cultural backgrounds as you, and building relationships while gaining knowledge and soft skill guidance. If you're interested in joining Mentors of Color, you can just go to mentorsofcolor.com/join. You can contact us at hello@mentorsofcolor.com. If you want to get some gear, you can go to shop.mentorsofcolor.com. And if you're interested in sponsoring our next event, sponsorships at mentorsofcolor.com. And we appreciate you all being here. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass the mic to Jean and Gina.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you all for joining us tonight to talk with Ms. Gina Fears. I just want to use some time here to just briefly introduce you all to Ms. Gina Fears. Ms. Gina Fears is a born and trained educator and program developer who has worked in the Indianapolis human services community for more than 26 years. Ms. Fears currently serves as the Indiana Peer Innovation Manager for Mental Health America. Gina has and uses her wealth of experiences, which include working in outpatient services treatment, research and training, nutrition, and supportive living management at Fairbanks. Ms. Fears has always maintained a special focus on women's recovery services through the creation of Esther's Place, a women's counseling center, Bring It to the Table, Rahab's Refuge, and serving as a former executive director of the Dove Recovery House for Women. Gina's current focus is training and upskilling certified addictions peer recovery coaches across Indiana's 92 counties, including in the Indiana Department of Corrections therapeutic communities. Gina has and continues to partner in research with Fairbanks, why women don't complete health programs with the IUPUI School of Public Health, benefits of peer coaching with the reentry population, and others, and has twice been published, has had her work published in journals. Gina also serves as the first program coordinator for Indianapolis Mayor's Office of Offender Reentry during the Ballard administration. Additionally, Gina serves as the Quality of Life Neighborhood Engagement Director for the Indy East Promise Zone's Martindale Brightwood neighborhood. With no further ado, I'd like everyone please welcome Ms. Gina Fears, who will be talking to us today about resilience in the workplace. So Ms. Fears, to start us off, for our conversation tonight, a very intriguing topic, a topic that impacts so many of us. And if it hasn't impacted us, it likely will, involving just kind of these transitions in the workplace. But whether you're exploring new opportunities or dealing with the sudden loss of a job, career transitions can be stressful and scary. Asking you, how can individuals effectively manage the emotional challenges that come with career transition and unemployment?
Well, as when we talked, hello everyone. Let me just stop for a second and say hello. And someone fell off, and I noticed that because I actually knew that person that was on. Um, and so I'm hoping that that person will come back on. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me. Thank you for allowing me to spend time with you all this evening and just try to talk through some things that just are real human and then to address them in a very human way. So yes, we all go through transitions. We go through transitions in life. We go through transitions in employment, specifically as we're talking about here. We go through transitions in family. We go through transitions in age. It is just a part of life. But one of the things that I think that we fail sometimes to realize is that as all of these things are happening, that not so much is it just situation, but it's also always opportunity. It's one of that is one of my favorite words is opportunity. I love that word because it allows me to look at anything as a chance for growth, a chance for learning, and a chance for a change that I probably had not thought about. But one of the things I think is very important for us to understand is our makeup, and that we're not just a one-fold individual. I am at least eight pieces coming together. And when I can see those pieces, and so I make reference to the eight dimensions of wellness. SAMHSA is our federal arm for all things substance abuse, mental health. So SAMHSA, Substance Abuse, Mental Health Administration for the federal government. And they've come up with a little circle of the eight dimensions of wellness. And so I think when we find ourselves in transition spaces and we're dealing with different emotions and they seem like, maybe up and down, I love the phrase that my kids and my grandchildren use. I feel some kind of way, because sometimes I can't name it, but I do feel some kind of
Right.
way. And honesty is important as well, at least to know I feel some kind of way, that I really need to do an assessment and find out where that some kind of way is, in which one of those dimensions is it. And so when we talk about those dimensions, we're talking physical, and all of these are areas of wellness that I need to be concerned with. So physical wellness, spiritual wellness, emotional wellness, occupational wellness, my work, intellectual wellness, environmental wellness, financial wellness, and even social wellness. And so those are the different parts of me. As SAMHSA tries to put names on them, if I can take a moment to look in each one of those parts and look at where I am for real right now. And one of them may be that part that is the some kind of way. The important thing is to know that each of those pieces of me connects to another piece and affects the other pieces. And so if I find myself in the occupational area that it's not at its most healthy state, then I want to be beefing up the other areas so that it will begin to support me while that occupational wellness is maybe lacking a little bit. Um, Job loss and even transition in job is actually a trauma. And I think a lot of times when we talk about trauma, we're looking for, oh, somebody hit me over the head, or,
Right.
I got carjacked. But trauma are those things that happen to us that affect our safety, whether that be physically, psychologically, or even emotionally. And so trauma stores itself in us. And that could be short period of time. It could be a longer period of time. And we have responses to that trauma. And so recognizing that it is a trauma, and that there's no crime in trauma. There's
Right.
no there's no sin in trauma. It's not unusual. Human beings, we hear the term trauma informed care so often, but do we really understand that every single one of us has experienced some trauma, and that it is okay to be informed about that and to care for ourselves, but specifically to look in each of these areas and see what care needs to happen in these areas. And even again, if one is not the most healthy at that point, to make sure that we're caring for the other so it holds that one up for that period of time.
Yeah, that's powerful. Like as some of you even said in the comments, like felt like that is like you were really just hitting home base, getting the home base there. And I kind of what really resonated with me was your point that job loss or jobs, your occupation is 1/8 of this entire picture here. So that I know sometimes we can find that whether dealing with the highs and lows of a job, we can identify so much with that becomes our identity. And when we
Yeah.
spoke before, you mentioned how does identity play into that? How do you understand yourself? Could you speak to that?
Well, when we spoke before, I talked to you about whether I have a they identity or whether I
Mm-hmm.
have identity. And I think it's very important for us as we grow that we begin to really investigate and come to understand who I am. There's so many, things that we're told that we are to be. literally, I was talking to a gentleman today, and he was saying that he was having a conversation with his sister, and he was saying, I should be here at this point, and I should have done this, and this should be accomplished, and that should be accomplished. And that's the kind of world that we live in. And so
Right.
all of these values and social beliefs are there. But have I really checked in with myself to see I am? What do I like? What do I want? What do I think looks nice on me? We often, even in our dressing, will dress and say, what do you think about this? But what did I think
Mm,
about it? And so,
yeah.
where is my identity? Where am I grounded? What is the real me? If I don't really like meat, I don't really have to eat meat. If I don't
Right.
like, the glasses that I have, I can always go and get a yellow pair if that's what I really like. And so am I identifying myself by what they said, or
Mm,
am I grounded in an identity that I believe is really me? And I think that that identity also can be growing and changing, and it can also be in transition. I know that
wow.
mine is. I'm in transition in an age now. I'm a senior citizen now. And so that's a new trend. Who am I
The
as
new
this?
reality. Yeah.
Yeah. So who am I?
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you for saying that. That is it's such a paradigm shifter to look at it that way. Um and kind of related to that, are there specific techniques or exercises that you'd recommend or suggest to combat those feelings of anxiety and stress related to career transitions?
Well, one, I go back to that word opportunity. And so
Mhm.
I think that inventories and assessments, I believe, are very important to our life to just stop sometimes and just do the inventory.
Mhm.
It is actually a look at, okay, what are the saleable and unsaleable goods about me right now? So what's working, what's not working? Okay,
Right.
what spoiled and needs to be put out, and then what's real good and I can keep on the shelves. And so I think that's really important. And then when we do that, I think again we go back to those 8 dimensions. There's some things that we need to do because again, whatever issues I'm dealing with right now, they're stored in my body. Whatever traumas I'm dealing with right now, they're stored in my body. So my issues are in my tissues. I love that. My yoga teacher tells me that. My issues are in my tissues. And so that
That's
would
a
be
good
one of
one.
the first things that I would say. Yes, I love it because it just reminds me that, okay, when this shoulder is doing something, and I'm like, that just came up all of a sudden. Is it really physical, or is it a stress? Is it a symptom of stress? Is it a symptom of anxiety? Is it a symptom of fear? Is it a symptom of, I just don't know where I am right now? So here is something really, really simple when we talk about a technique. Number one, down at your feet. That is where I am right now.
Oh, can you say that one more time, Miss Gina?
Look down at your feet because
Okay.
that's where I am right now. And I think a lot of times we are not present.
Mm,
We are in whatever has happened, and we are moving ourselves very quickly to what will happen or what can happen. And we don't give ourselves an opportunity to just be present. So, we're going to have responses to whatever is going on, but I can't address them if I'm not present. And so, present, where am I at right now? Not to mention, my belief in this world is that I am where I'm supposed to be for this moment. And if I
oh
can
wow.
be still, if I can find the place, and it's not easy. It is so not easy to do. If I can be still in this place, I can see the revelations. I can hear the messages that are coming to me. How do we do that? Many of us do that through prayer, but prayer is my requesting. Am I going to couple meditation with that so that I can hear responses?
Mm,
One of my is I love I love a good yoga practice that has an intention to it. At the beginning of the practice, setting an intention for that practice so that even as I'm working with my physical body, I love a yoga practice for strength and endurance because I know this body needs to be able to carry me through whatever is going on. So, strength and endurance yoga, but setting an intention for something that I need clarity on and getting to the savasana time where I am in the meditation, where I am quiet, where my body, I've used the muscles in my body and worked them to the point that they need to rest. I cause them to rest, and then I can be still. Simply focusing on my breath. Breath is
Mm,
foundation. Breathing, I'm not living. And so just focusing
right.
on that, sure that I'm not hyperventilating, that I'm actually breathing in its right way, closing my mouth and allowing breath to enter it through my nostrils and move through my body and seeing how long I can hold that so that it gets through my body so that it as well begins to bring toxins out. And when I'm doing that, that breath, that oxygen is helping my thinking as well. Um, there's so many things that we can do in physical care. What about my dietary care? And so when we think about techniques or exercises, it doesn't all have to be, the workout and push-ups and weightlifting. It doesn't all have to be that, but literally exercising every piece of me. So my body was formed to heal itself. My mind is part of the body,
That's
and
right.
it exercise the pieces that are given to me that are so amazingly created, I will find healing and I'll actually find some peace in there as well.
That's powerful. As you mentioned those, I couldn't help but think so many of those were very kind of centering exercises. Like I would think sometimes we think that, okay, man, this all this chaos is changing, so many things going on. Let me get to moving, let me get to hustling. I need to grind more. And your recommendations are the opposite of that. You're just like, yeah, just look down, look where you are, you know, center yourself, be present, be still. Like that almost sounds counterintuitive to what your initial reflex would be.
And it is because the initial reflex that seems like it's natural is actually the trauma response.
Oh,
And
whoa, whoa, wow.
meditate it, then I pause. And here's what's interesting about pause. There's no time limit on it. So I may need to pause for 5 minutes, as I'm waking, because I wake up and I remember what happened yesterday. And all of a sudden I feel the trauma again. It starts going. So just stop, pause, breathe. We hear a lot of times we'll say, well, just take 5 breaths. We'll take 5 deep breaths. Pause for a moment so we can get present. And then if there is some grind and some hustle to do, I will do it in my present state and not in
Mm, not in your yeah, not in a panic state. And that kind of relates to what you said in the earlier question about identity. Maybe it's that pause that gives you time, like you were talking about, to really center on what it is that you want, what it is that you truly seek, why it is you're doing what you're doing, and and what opportunities may be present even in this obstacle.
Oh,
So
for sure.
that, that's fascinating. And I just want to quickly at this point to say a reminder to our attendees, feel free to add or ask any questions in the chat that you want to hear Miss Gina's perspective on. We'll be sure to work those in, and we will also have time for Q&A at the end, but we can also take your questions in the midst of our conversation today. Next question for you. Rejection is hurtful, and setbacks they can, as we all know, they can knock the wind out of us, kind of can rattle us, can shake our confidence, shake us to our core. How can individuals develop a resilience in the face of setbacks and rejection in our career journeys?
And so it's kind of it's part of the growth process. Initially, rejection was like, no, really? Um, and then, the setbacks are, I can't believe this. This wasn't the way this was supposed to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things I would say is, if you know, I love that the quote by Martin Luther King, that if you can't fly, then if you can't run, if you can't walk, then
Right.
whatever. I would not have understood that, much earlier in life. At this over 60 now, I get it. Not only because it works for my body, but because it works for my mind. Because there's sometimes that my mind cannot run. It just needs rest. Rest is such a necessary thing for us. And so that rooting and grounding that you talked about, um, I I want to make sure that's a part of me. Um, I need to. I really in my life needed to come to a place, and I just share this with people all the time. I needed to come to a place where everything about my life was not dictated by another person.
Mm.
The way I felt about myself, what I was supposed to do, where I needed to be. I honestly grew up in a time, I grew up in the 60s, and I grew up in this time with this amazing push for education, education, education. Be the best that you can be. Oh, you can always be the best. Well, I can't always be the best. So I need to, tell myself some truths. I can't always be the best. I can do the best that I can for this time, but I can't always be the best. I can't always be the smartest person in the room. And guess what? It really isn't healthy to be the smartest person in the room. So I like to enter rooms where I'm not. Let me
Right.
go to one is
Growth mindset. Yeah.
absolutely. So then when I come to those spaces, then this truth became true to me. What you think of me, Mr. Ford,
Hmm. He says it's not your business.
business. That's your thought. That thought is none of my business. And so rejection, I usually conjure myself. Something has happened. And because the answer wasn't just yes, I said it was rejection. So that was the other thing I was learning was, you know what? I don't know all of the backstory in this situation, even if it's on a job and it's not the job that I applied for this job. I didn't get this job. There's someone that I just talked to recently that I interviewed with maybe 20 years ago for a position. And today I thank them for not hiring me. But initially in that moment, it felt like rejection. What I didn't know is that, oh my goodness, there is really a plan for what's going to go on in my life. It's out there. Whether you want to say it's God's plan, whether you want to say it's in the universe, however you want to say it, I'm going to tell you that it's out there. And that one foot in front of another is leading to the next opportunity. Sometimes it looks like setback, but it really is set up. And that's what this thing was. And so I am working
Mm.
with that person now on a major project that did not hire me. And we are having a ball. And she laughs because I say, I'm so glad you didn't do that because I have all these new opportunities that were in front of me that I got to live through that brought me all the way back around to being able to do this major project now. So I guess what I'm saying is that it really depends on how I wear my lens and how I decide to look at it. And that piece about what you think about me is really none of my business. It isn't because I can't really tell you what you think about me unless I sit down with and stop saying that it's rejection and say, by the way, could you tell me what you really thinking about me so
Hmm.
that I will know? And sometimes it hasn't been that it was something wrong with me
Or personal. Yeah.
personal. It's simply been, you know what? And I get it today. That wasn't going to be the best for me. And someone else helped me by being able to see that because I
Wow.
couldn't.
Right. And from our previous conversation, you had mentioned things. I think you had said online like a setback is a setup for my next success, and that also I think you also
And
said that.
success.
Yeah, and I think you even said like we often have to remind ourselves that we have skills that somebody wants. And like I said, even if it's not in this particular opportunity, somebody needs our combination, our special mixture of experience, know-how,
So
um, Yeah, all of those things. And then I think lastly, I believe you also said something that really stuck with me is that you said I can participate in my own miracle depending on how I approach the situation. So I took notes, man. So I no,
Absolutely.
could you speak to that?
Well, I think a lot of times, you know, our definition of help sometimes is interesting because I may say to you, Mr. Ford, can you help me to get to this place?
Mm-hmm,
If I'm not very careful, what I'm actually, can you get me to this place?
mm-hmm,
And so in this case, when sometimes when that's when I'm set back, or I don't even like that word, when
mm-hmm,
the answer is not right now, or the answer is not this time, or not this thing,
mm-hmm,
then I am moved to a place of, okay, what do I need to do for the next thing? And the next thing is going to be the amazing miracle that I've been looking for, but I have to participate in getting myself there.
yeah.
If I'm just in because and don't get me wrong, nepotism has been a wonderful thing in my life and it's been a wonderful thing in my career, but it was only that good because of my participation in it.
Mm,
So everything can't be microwavable. And got to
right.
remember, when we use the microwave, if we don't use it properly at the right power, with the right power, I like the phrase with the right power. We don't use
Mm-hmm,
it with the right power. If we're not using it for the right amount of time, we will get either an uncooked something, a
mm-hmm.
halfway cooked something, or an overcooked something.
Right.
If I get those pieces right, and it takes time and it takes some diligence and it takes some participation to get those pieces right, then I can get properly cooked something. And that, I believe, is what we're all looking for in our life, is the opportunity to have a properly cooked something.
That's awesome. Another question for you. Again, this is just a fascinating topic, so I just love asking you these questions. I love your perspectives on these things. Uncertainty can be unsettling. What strategies do you recommend for maintaining motivation during times of uncertainty or job search?
So I think that we really have to be conscious of our goals, that we're setting in that period of time. First of all, there really need to be some goals that we're setting. So
Okay.
not just doing things. Okay, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. So there is research to be done. But again,
Mm,
here's a again to do some assessment of myself. Some questions that I have are like, okay, is there anything that I think that I need to build in myself? Because
okay.
I need to be honest with me. Is there anything I think I need to build in myself in this time? And then what do I want? But there's a secondary question to that. Because, there's just an answer for that. What do I want? Well, you know what I want? This ED position over here. This is what I really like to do. But what do I really want? Because if I think that ED position all the way through, I'll walk through what are all the responsibilities and duties of that position? How much leadership has to come there? What is the administrative work? Am I going to be responsible for the finances? How many people will I have to be leader to and be responsible for? So then I ask myself the secondary question. Okay, so what do I really want?
Right.
Okay, so it's okay. What do I want? But what do I really want? And then what am I willing to do to get it?
Mm-hmm.
And then what am I willing to do today? And so it's just a simple series of questions that I just go through about so many different things. Okay, what am I lacking? Is there anything that I'm lacking? Okay, well, what's the resource for that? Where do I find that? How do I get
Right.
it? What do I want? What is it
Mm-hmm.
that I believe that I want? Okay, now Gina, what do I really? What's the detail of what I want? And then, what am I willing to do to get it? And then, what am I willing to do today?
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped making 10 and 15 goals for myself in a day and making those long, long task lists because I found out that they frustrated me.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
So I couldn't get through all of them, not to the standard that I wanted to do, and I want to do my best. So I keep a short list, and it's okay to have a short list. But again, I
Yeah.
understand it. I was born in the time where people want to work with busy people, so stay busy. But
Hmm.
it doesn't matter if I'm just spinning. If there's
Or
no
do you get burned out? Right.
doubt, or I'm tired all the time, which then brings about stress and anxiety and oh my God, so many other things. And sometimes I'm just mad about it.
Hmm.
I've just been spinning and spinning and spinning and nothing happened. And those are things that I can't any longer put off on someone else. And because when the blame starts happening, I'm out of present again because I have to go back to figure out where the blame goes. That puts me back in past again. So I keep it a short list and work through that.
That's super helpful. We've got a few questions I wanted to raise your way. I'm noticing one of the comments a little bit earlier in our previous question, just kind of reinforced one of the things you were saying, that kind of accepting that mindset of I can't always be on. And as you said, being mindful of not doing things to overwhelm and frustrate ourselves, trying to create situations, create circumstances when we can operate in healthy ways, conscious of the many different aspects of who we are, not just one. And acknowledging that, hey, we have limits, but we also have healthy limits that are we can put in place to not have this overwhelming, exhaustive list of goals, but maybe just like, hey, a few things I know I can manage, I can do well, I can stay on top of to keep moving forward. Another one of the questions we received here is there anything you can do to make yourself more visible to employers? So, like you were saying, as you go through your short list of goals, what are some of those? Are there any things that you would recommend, or like, yeah, these are must dos to help make yourself visible to employers? Let's just imagine you've already centered yourself, you know exactly what it is you want. What would you recommend to make yourself more visible for employers? And thank you for your question, Ryan.
And then may I ask if you're asking me about a new employer or a current employer? So are we still talking transition? I'm leaving this space and I'm going
Yeah,
to an
it's yeah, Ryan, did you want to expound? It sounds like you're talking about new employers, right? Or
Uh, Honestly, I was sort of maybe new employers because I was on the job search, but no, I finally found something at least. But yeah, new employers.
okay.
so I think one thing is that let me not just over it if I'm putting resume together, and that's what's going to go out. Let me not just over embellish the resume. I'm going to be real honest. As I'm reading resumes, like right now, I am hiring right now, and I am reading through resumes, and I am looking at these long, long list of I can't. I can do this, 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 and this. Well, here's the thing. There was a job description that came with the search. I didn't ask you for all those different things. I asked for these particular, can you do these things? And when I see that long, long, long listing, I'm like, oh, do I really need to read through this? And so I'm just being honest about,
Hmm.
looking at that as it comes as an employer, what I am looking for, what makes something stand out to me. Um, maybe I can liken it to this. So when we are writing in the not-for-profit world, as we are responding to RFPs or requests for proposal or grants for funding, we write back to the person that has the money what they said.
Hmm.
So they asked for a program that is going to count dog biscuits for dogs. Y'all know I'm just making that up, right? And so I write
Right.
to count dog biscuits for dogs. I've been counting dog biscuits for dogs for 15 years. I
Hmm.
write back to them what they asked for, what they said they were looking for. And I believe resumes should do the same thing. And I know we have all of these amazing, wonderful ways to write resumes, so many different formats, and we put our hard skills in, we put our soft skills in, we put all of our education and accomplishments in. I want to know when you send me that resume, can you do the job that I have just said in this description that needs to be done? And that is the most outstanding resume to me. I'm not belittling any other resume, but what I'm saying it's the honest and sweet and to the point resume because it answers the question. And so there may be space to put a few more of my extra skills in, but do they also relate to this job? Because that's the other thing that we often see on resumes is that, yes, we're making those listings of all the things that I can do, but they don't relate to this job. The other thing is that if I want to stand out in that big stack, I don't want to overwhelm the employer either because if I have too many amazing things about me, I cost too much.
Mm. Wow.
And so I'm not even going to look at it because I can't meet the salary, what I have here. And I'm pretty good because I always put the potential salary at the bottom of the job description.
Oh,
So you,
nice.
yes. But I also know what it costs to get a person like that. And it's either that that person costs too much, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some negotiation time, and I know what my budget is, or then something's wrong. Because if you're going for this salary, all those skills, there might be a problem.
Wow. And I love your recommendations here. These are like so helpful because I think often it can be our practice to say, "Oh, I applied to 50 places. I just kind of shotgun blasted my resume everywhere. It's the exact same carbon copy."
So
Whereas you're more so saying, find out what the unique things that the employers are looking for. Because one, with your advice actually makes it easier for the employers when reading these things instead of them having to translate, oh, what is this award winning writer? How does this relate to the headaches and pain points that we have at our company? Maybe that company may have lost someone great that they had that could do so many things and address so many problems as prospective employees and job candidates, it's our role to, like you said, really make sure that we have a tailor-made resume that speaks directly to those pain points and headaches and how you and your skills can be the relief to those pain points and headaches.
like, even as we put our past experiences on, do they relate to this job here? Do they relate to this role here in this organization? So I don't need to list everything that I've ever done. Yes, be proud of those, but they don't go on every resume.
Yeah, yeah. I've got another question here from Maisha. What if you've habitually been underemployed or undervalued yourself? What if you have been habitually underemployed or undervalued yourself?
So there's two sides for me in this. And the first one is there's some personal work to be done. And there again is that amazing opportunity to stop and figure out I I am. Because if I have been habitually underemployed and I've been habitually undervaluing myself, in both of those things I have had choice. And so now I'm looking at this going, I'm I'm not going to treat myself that way anymore. I don't have to say yes to just anything. And I really do understand that there are points and times in life where, okay, you know what, I've got to get a job. I've just got to get income coming in. But in the midst of doing that and taking care of family and whatever those funds are needed for, then I also go back to that question of, okay, what's lacking? What can I do to build that up in me? What do I want? What do I really want? What am I going to do about it? And what am I going to do about it today? But first, it is really having to stop and say, wait, hang on. I'm doing this to me. It's not, again, it's not they that are doing this to me. I'm doing this to me. When I'm underemployed, I said, yes, I'll take this job. Now, did I have, time choice in that? Maybe not. But even while I say yes and do this, then let me do this for a period of time. Let me set the goal for myself for, okay, this is how long this is going to last while I do what I need to do to get me where I want to go.
Man, that's fascinating. Thank you so much. Thank you for your question, Maisha. And thank you for that
Thank you.
response, Gina. I think we might have time for maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll um, take some Q&A. I think we got maybe one more message came in. Um, I just Chastity, I just want to read your comment here. Chastity says, "I'm in a situation where I have been acknowledged by management and board staff that a raise is coming and that I am invaluable, but no raise has transpired. That's why I'm in this program. I'm no longer waiting."
Hmm. And
Man,
you know what? I could grow to be my best advocate. And I think we all owe that to ourselves to advocate for ourselves. We learn how to do that.
no one
Um,
else is going
and
to do
we
that.
do that mature,
Yeah,
gonna go in and say, hang on, you keep promising me this, and what I really see is that string just keeps getting longer, 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 and you just keep pulling me along. I just need it on the table
yeah.
because for me, it's time for it to be on the table, and I get to make some choices.
That's right. Mr. Mike Lee and added a line. He said, "Yes, I would evaluate the place of employment for sure." Yeah, I think many of us have had those experiences where someone can dangle a carrot in front of us for so long, and that can just lead to disappointment. But I love that you're kind of reminding us to be empowered, that there's choice in that. There's choice
Yes,
involved in the mix here.
and
That
and
you don't
that's
have to settle.
I do want to be clear with that. That's not angry choice because again, there may be times that I have to stay there because I got a family at home. We still
That's
at
right.
least have soup and grilled cheese for dinner, so we got to make that happen. But
Mhm.
what's happening? I can be doing something that I need to do in order to move myself forward. But we
Yeah,
don't we
yeah.
don't do we don't do the angry advocacy. And the other thing I think too is so there are those times where I love that comment about evaluate the place of employment. Okay, so evaluate the place of employment. When you're done evaluating it and you've made the choice of what it is that we need to do, that I need to do, what's the next move I need to make? When when I've made that move,
Mhm.
the place of employment that I was, I'm no longer there. So I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to dog them. I don't have to try to get them back. I don't have to live through any
Mm.
of that stuff because that puts me in past again. So
Oh, wow.
it's fixed, it's worked out. And I think, again, another thing that we would not normally call a trauma response, but that we are fight or flight people. So we
Right.
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
stand and we managed to get done what we needed to get done to get to the next place. Let that employer go. Let them go. Let them go out of your tissues. Let them go out of your body. Let them just go. It's over and move on into the light.
That's healthy. And you've been kind of, all your advices really seem to be rooted in healthy practices and,
Mhm.
emotional health. I wanted to ask you about mental health. What are
Mm.
Mhm.
some common misconceptions people have about mental health in the workplace? And how can we address those effectively?
Well, here's a very, very common misconception, and it's real, real simple. Caring for my mental health does not mean I'm crazy.
Good point. Yeah.
It it doesn't, but here's a real deal. So everyone has mental health to care for. We may not all have a diagnosis, but we all do
Mm,
have to care for. I mean that's a part of us. And so I think historically and sometimes even culturally and sometimes even racially, that whole crazy thing, just that term, that stigmatizing, keeps us from even looking into it.
mm,
And so here's some things that might help to look in. So the prevalence of mental health concerns. Let's talk about what it really looks like in our world. So the World Health Organization tells us that 1 out of every 8 people in the world live with a mental disorder. And let's just say that the word disorder is the word that is used clinically for a diagnosis of something that is going on with a person. it simply means that this 1 in 8 person doesn't, everything doesn't fire off like the other 7. It still
Okay.
doesn't mean crazy, but because
Right.
order is used as the diagnosis, then we get to that place of, well, what's wrong with them?
Mm,
Well, guess what? The reason that the World Health Organization knows that 1 in 8 have that, because those people were smart enough to go and find out why they felt
mm,
this way on this day, why on this day they were slow, why on this day they felt more anxious, why on this day they were sad, why on this day they were literally paralyzed in fear. That's how we know that person was smart enough to go and get help for it. It's
right.
the word and the stigma that fits around taking care of my mental health. Um, Mental health involves sometimes disturbances in our thinking.
Hmm.
Can say that they never just had a spot and time where they just were like, oh, okay, okay. But just working with that and standing still and pausing in that moment and breathing, okay, and then coming back around and not beating myself up about it, that's caring for my mental health. Um, Sometimes it's emotional irregularity. Well, what's going on in my life today? Something might be going on where, one moment I feel like crying, the next moment I feel like laughing. Something may be going on and it's real. But still, I just want to make sure that I'm at a healthy balance there. It's really okay to feel what I really feel. And if I never get past the feeling, then okay, let me ask someone. Doesn't constitute that something is disorderly about me or that I am something's wrong with me. We need
Right.
to come sometimes to not reducing people to the question of what's wrong with you, but
Hmm.
but the question and saying what might have happened, what might have
That it reframes it.
absolutely. Um, there's different types of mental care that we need to give to ourselves. There are so many effective prevention and treatment options that exist, and you know, for the most part, we can access that care. There are some
Mhm.
disparities as we look at social determinants of health. We know that there are some disparities, but again, culturally, sometimes racially, historically, looked at it as though I'm crazy. Something's wrong. And that's why we haven't sought out, because many times it's not even treatment that has to happen, it's just support getting me through this time.
Right. Oh man, that that's that's powerful. I was going to ask you too before we wrap up here. Yeah, this is Mentors of Color. What unique emotional hurdles or systemic challenges do people of color, and by that I mean non-white individuals, melanated individuals, Black, African American, um, just the spectrum there. What unique emotional hurdles or systemic challenges do people of color often face in the workplace, and how can they navigate these effectively?
So, yes, when we talked to it, thank you for the definition because I know I asked you what the POC was, and you said,
Right. I try to be very super clear this time. So.
um, so a few things that I've seen through the years. I literally was born in the year 1960, and so a lot of things have happened and a lot of ebb and flow. But one of the things that I've seen through the years is first that I don't represent every Black or African American woman. And so many times in the workplace, I have been asked to.
Mm,
And
right.
so I've grown to that place of telling people, I don't know how every Black and African American, but I can tell you how I feel today. I can tell you what I. So I
That's
think
right.
that
That's healthy.
yeah, it's healthy to say that, and then um, I think it's really so that's one thing that I've always seen, and at a point in time, it was a very heavy burden because I bought into it.
Hmm.
And so I would say, first of all, I don't have to represent every person of color.
Right.
Understand that and should be okay um, with me letting them know that and them to know where they can get more information. Because I don't. I have some idea of what this black girl knows and this black girl feels, but I cannot tell you what all the other black women. And then I think there is the other piece that is okay, so gotta fit in. And I mastered this skill just in my school because here I was in a historically African American black neighborhood on the west side of Indianapolis growing up. But then as I got on my school bus and went to school every day, I went to a whole different neighborhood and culture, went to a private Christian school. And so
Oh,
I learned there.
oh, I'm sorry. One second. I'm sorry, Miss Gina. I just want to encourage anyone or everyone else on the call, unless you're asking a question, if you could go on mute, just so we don't pick up any additional background noise. Okay, sorry, Miss Gina. You were talking about. So I know you grew up on the west side of Indianapolis, and you were going through this experience of navigating a very different school in a
Very
very
different,
different cultural makeup.
very
Um,
different.
all right. Yeah. So yeah, go back.
School years, I ended up being one of the two persons of color in the high school, in the entire high school. So I learned how to become that chameleon. I learned how to change from who I am at home to who I am here. And I think that it's a skill set that I still can use some of. But again, I believe a lot of employers want us to change to match what their vision is for whatever the organization is. And again, it's okay to be the skills that I bring to this work, whether they be hard, soft, the intellectual wellness that I have, the emotional wellness that I bring with it, they belong to this girl of color. And it's
Right.
okay to bring her to work. I think the other thing is that our employers need to learn about people of color. And it is so okay for me to be a teacher. And it's okay for me to be the teacher even before they've asked me. I live in a world where culture is so important. It's so important for us to understand culture. My race does not necessarily define every culture that I am a part of, but there are cultures that my race has been a big contributor to. And so sharing that information because every employer should find themselves in a state of cultural humility as well as being prepared to be culturally responsive to the needs of those that they hire. And so I think it's okay for me to be the teacher, and I don't need anyone's permission to teach the culture that I am.
That's
Actually,
great. Yeah, I love that. And I think this might be my last question for you. And I kind of just want to kind of also work in some of your insight into upskilling programs. Could you share some of your favorite practical tips for improving time management skills, especially for those in career transition or upskilling programs?
um, oh goodness. Well, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that every day only holds 24 hours.
Mhm.
Number one,
That's right.
that's all that's there. Um, in that 24 hours, I really need to take a look at what it is for real that I need to get accomplished in this 24 hours. I think that a lot of times, okay, and so that whole booked and busy thing, that really has to go away because we can't do
Mm,
stuff right on top of just keep piling stuff on top of. I got a 45-minute appointment here. I'm gonna have a 10-minute break in between, and then I got the next one. I've got three more after that. Well, when it's all said and done, if there was dinner to cook or there was groceries to pick up on the way home or even the kids to pick up after school, I'm really too tired to do all that. So one, I'm back to that place of lighten the load myself. And then as I look at managing the time within the 24 hours, what is it that I need to do? I also where how much of it is travel, how much of it is sitting. I love that little thing in my Microsoft account now that looks for my free time in my calendar and puts focus
Oh
time
yeah.
in. So when other people are looking at my calendar, it looks busy, it looks booked to them, and it is free time to me. And
Hmm.
that free be to work on some projects that I need to work on without disturbance, or it might just be because I need to breathe. It might be because I need to just go outside and around the second. Um, I think the other thing is when I'm setting time for things to make sure for time management, I just have this thing about I want to be on. I hate being late. So factor in around whatever appointment, factor in the prep time prior to, and if that's travel time, and then the decompressed time after. That's a real that I factored in the time to prep for it and the time to decompress from it, and then move to the next thing. But I think the greatest thing is to remember that there's only 24 hours in a day. And truth of it is I've got to factor in some sleep time. I've got to factor in, for me, a day really looks like I'm going to rise early because I'm better in the morning. So I'm going to
Hmm.
rise early. My first alarm is at 5:30 in the morning. But because the alarm goes off at 5:30, that is just a notice for me. The second alarm is at 6:15. 6:15 is the one I'm going to actually get up from, giving myself what I need in order to. At that point, I start getting people ready for school. I start getting me ready. And then I have an entire hour of time, even with all of that, that I block out that is simply meditation and Bible study and prayer. That's where I start every day. So now I
You're
got
not
something to
jumping out and rushing. You're not running
do.
out of the bed to cat.
And when we have start points like that is my start point. And I'm happy to say that's where my day starts, and it's an amazing start to a day. I'm not giving it up for anything.
That's awesome.
And part of time management is it's my time. It's my time. I'm not giving it up for anything. So I may have a nine. I start that devotional at 7:45. Um, I may have a 9 o'clock appointment, but I'm going to do the entire devotional. Actually, everyone that I work with knows that I do that. Everybody that I work with, my boss, the assistant that I have, everybody knows. In that hour, I'm doing that. So they don't bother me. I may see every now and then a little Teams message come through. They already know I'm not answering them because that's where
It
I
can
am.
wait. That's
It
right.
wait.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll be able to respond to it better when you've already taken that time. Uh,
Yes, I
I
will.
think, yeah, that's all. I mean, I know I've heard people say that they'll have a question like I'll have to sort that out. Well, I'm gonna go to the gym or I'm gonna go walk in nature. I'm gonna go, like I said, walk around the cul-de-sac. I'm gonna go take my dogs out and do something totally unrelated to the task. Then you come back at it, you're still healthy and you can focus and give it the time it's due. And another thing I know that when we spoke before, and I'd love for you to share with this group is I love that too, Mike, protecting your time. Um, you talked about celebrating each accomplishment. So even as we're working through goals, even as we're working through routines, even maybe we're trying to start new routines, maybe it's a period of fasting, maybe it's a period of, we're all part of our new year, new us. But you talk about celebrate breaking out the pom poms. Can you talk about what breaking out the pom poms means?
I keep them
Feel free to use pom poms if you have some. Okay.
real things, and celebrating those. And I think what we don't really know or don't think about is um, that chemical flow in that celebration produces an excitement for the next thing. And so doing that for myself. I mean, other people can celebrate me. Hey, that's cool. I like that. I like it when people celebrate me, but celebrate myself. And then I don't have to wait on anyone else to celebrate me too. I don't know if I said that part to you, but I don't have to wait on anyone to celebrate. I can celebrate me. And again, it contributes to my identity instead of a they identity. But yeah, celebrate, celebrate milestones, celebrate. Uh, I got here on time. I was tickled. My daughter did. One of my daughters joined meditation, and she struggled with time. And she joined the meditation one morning, and she said, "My praise report for today is I'm here on time." And so we celebrate it. But yes, celebrate. I celebrate my accomplishments. I celebrate the opportunities, and it does leave an excitement that okay, well now let's do something else, so we can celebrate it too.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions. I want to open up the floor for others who may have questions, and feel free to, if you want to come on, turn your mic on and ask the questions before we wrap up. Want to be sure that no one leaves here having wished they would have asked something. And I know they can always follow up with Mentors of Color, but while you're here, does anyone have anything they want to ask Miss Gina?
Thank you.
Yeah, getting all kinds of props here. Lots of thank you, Gina's on here. This is a really engaging discussion, and just on a topic I know that means so much. And I just want to thank you for bringing forth such practical, wise, insightful advice for us. A lot of this even kind of flies in the face of advice we may have held on to or always thought was right. But I think you really have shared the gift you shared today as a way to really reframe, to see ourselves as bigger than just job searches, understanding the place that those can have in our lives, but that our lives have so many more aspects and elements to them that can make us healthier. And so thank you for sharing the importance of routines, of finding and centering ourselves and what it is we really want, what we're really, what our purpose really could be, and to be open to possibilities, even in those finding opportunities and things we perhaps didn't invite for ourselves. So just as Mrs. Stara has just said, thank you, Gina, for such rich advice filled with wisdom.
She
That's
was,
exactly what it is.
thank you. That's where a lot of my wisdom comes from.
Mrs. Stare,
It's having time to talk it through with her. Keep some
awesome.
keep some wise counsel close to you.
That's great advice. And I agree with Nicole, who said this was a blessing, and absolutely appreciate the practical ways that Miss Gina shared to support ourselves. Well,
Can
thank you
you hear
so
me?
much.
Hello?
Oh, yeah, hello.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
How are you doing today?
Well, thank you.
I had a question. I'm in a current situation. I was the one that was saying that, my my managers are saying, "Oh yeah, you're invaluable. Your job is guaranteed for as long as you want, type of thing." But I'm not getting that reciprocation back as far as it pertains to my pay. And I'm 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 at a place where it doesn't matter if they give me a increase in pay or not because I've made in my mind that I'm leaving. But I'm nervous because I'm 43 years old. I don't know if you can see my face very well, but some say I don't look 43. But, a lot of employers are looking for people that are younger. As I continue to grow older, I'm noticing some changes in myself, in my thinking, in my memory, in my body, that, I don't know if I'm totally prepared to be in some type of competition with the younger crowd. And it makes me nervous. And I know nervousness is good, but it still leaves an unsettlement inside of me that makes me feel like that, you know, is is this really possible?
It's possible.
I mean,
All
I
things.
know deep down inside of me, I know it's possible, but I can't help but to acknowledge at the same time my fears. I know what they say. Fears are nothing
That
false
it.
evidence appearing real, right? Yeah, but I can't help but to voice it, and I experience a lot of times where when I voice it, it's kind of like, oh, don't pay it no mind, but at the same time, I have to pay it mind because it's here and it's present, and I have to deal with what the reality is, which is I'm going up against younger and younger and younger. I'm just curious as to, like, what would you suggest at this point in time, with a total career change with no experience, just, going through the process of trying to make a change in my life at this point in time for my betterment and get myself out of a situation that I've already acknowledged and seen that it's not healthy.
So, are you asking me for some feedback?
I am indeed,
Awesome.
definitely.
Love. So, I'm so glad that you were able to put a name on that feeling. Um, and fear is a really, really crazy thing. And yes, you have heard and seem to understand the acronym false evidence appearing real, but do you really understand those words? False, meaning it's not true,
Hmm.
and it's something that's been presented and that a case is built on, and then appearing only an illusion about it being real. Fear is like this evil and corroding thread. It'll run through every fabric of our life. At some point in time, we will experience fear. But then there's this amazing thing that we can have, which is called faith. And faith is simply, Father, always in thy hand. Now, can the two of those walk at the same time? No, they can't. But that doesn't mean that we don't experience both of them. But I've got to choose one. Which one am I going to lean to? Because here's the
Hmm.
thing. You probably heard the story about the wolf, and this isn't just something that sounds pretty. There's the two wolves, and they're in a fight. There's this amazing Indian elder that is telling his grandson this story. And as he talks about the times that have happened over and over that these two wolves have met up, and the grandson finally says to him, so, but Grandpa, which one's going to win the fight? And Grandpa explains to him, it's the one because the one that we feed gets stronger. So if I know that fear is false evidence appearing, I really know that, then I probably don't want to feed that one. Probably want to move to the side of feeding the faith one. And how do I feed that? Okay, so we got these amazing phrases that we hear, but here's one that I know one is heard whether we realize that it's scripture or not. Faith without works is dead. That means I'm not just going to say I have faith, I'm going to walk and do something because we believe what we see. And so, sure, there are young people out there, they're competing, but they don't know what you know. They don't have the wisdom you know. They don't have the gifts you know. They don't have the faith you have. They don't have the struggle and how to get through that you have. They don't have the bounce back that you have. They don't have the resilience that you have. You've already lived through some things. They're just trying to figure it out. Or as my husband would say, been here 15 minutes and think they know it all.
Hmm.
Feed that faith and then do something so that you can see something. But fear always be with us. It's bait. It's bait for us to stop. It's bait for us to go into some of those mental states that we don't want to be in. It's bait to stop. It's bait to keep us from what is really out there for us. So there's an opportunity in this for you to actually test, right, and see. how deep and how good it really is. This
Mhm.
fear is a false evidence appearing real. I'm supposed to be afraid if I fall in a hole and I don't know how to get out,
Mhm.
but I'm supposed to be afraid when I see how to walk around the hole.
That makes sense.
That that's really helpful. Thank you for that question, Chastity, because I think your exact question speaks to the heart of the whole topic we're dealing with today, and that you're not the only one that has those concerns. And so, thank you for speaking to that and representing the questions that many of us here tonight and many of us out in the workforce um, have really struggled with. So and Gina, kind of going to what you had said earlier too, it made me think when you're responding that kind of having you kind of reframe how you see things. Like, are these things I need to be concerned, worried, and scared about, or are there some hidden gems, some untapped opportunities? Might this unlock levels that I haven't even considered? Like maybe I think you even talked about in your own life, like something that happened decades ago that kind of unlocks something like that for you, where you're like,
Mhm.
well, this isn't where I expected or wanted to be. I wouldn't have asked for this. I didn't order this. And then you're like, oh, it unlocks something. Like you said, even with a person that, they didn't accept you for a job, but now here you are working with them in a different capacity, and one that you feel even more, you feel better about. And it's like, oh man, that if you looked at it with fear, that would have all been shut down long ago. You would have just kind of turned the lights off on those possibilities. But being open to it, and here, you find yourself really tapping into something special.
Actually said, I one of the things I think about is I heard my father say the very same thing. Was that Chastity that was talking?
That was Chastity.
Okay, I remember my father saying the very same thing, and I've heard that in my head so many times, like in maybe in the last even 10 years. But in this last 10 years, I have changed jobs, picked up different contracts. I know that that's not true. It just depends on where am I at the right place or not. And so the point I'm getting to is that many of the ideas that I've grown up with can stand revision. They don't all have to remain true because I heard them when I was a kid. I remember my dad, once his company was downsized, he had been there for 30 years. He had his watch. And I remember him saying that he wasn't going to get hired because of age. In fact, he really was. He got hired as an amazing job. He had a job that he loved until he was not with us anymore. But I believed that, and so it was a setup. But I do know today many ideas that have been passed down to us stand. They can be fine.
Powerful. Thank you. I'm just checking the chat to see if there are any other. Um, see if we have any other questions. I think that may have been it. Just we had just had a note from one comment that just said "deep" with an exclamation point, and another line that said wisdom that is so crucial and needed." Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Regina. Is there anything that maybe we didn't ask with the question that you wanted to be sure that in our gathering here, that any messages you wanted to be sure to pass on to our group gathered with us today?
I just think the only, what I would say, just knowing that our theme was about resilience, is that it's a real thing. And as we grow, and that whole idea of wisdom being so crucial and needed, but remember that it's through tribulation that we gain patience. Patience is not waiting, but it's how we wait. And then in that waiting, and there's the learning, the opportunity, all those things we talked about. That's where the wisdom comes from. So I'm not wise because something hurried up and happened. I'm wise because I had to go through something. We're all wiser because we go through something. I'm not as wise as I'm going to be, because I got to keep through life. And this kind of brings us to that idea of trusting the process of life. I trust the giver of life, so I trust the process of life. And process, as it's defined, is simply this: a series of events that lead to a particular end. So again, I trust the giver of life. So I'm going to go back to the giver and say, what's the process for this? Got to get some grounding somewhere. Got to have something that I can lean and definitely depend on. Because some days look hard. Some days feel hard. That's real life. But they're not days to quit. They're days to figure out where I am. What's the event in this process I'm in? That's it.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all
Then
for.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jalen. Yeah, is that you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and you kind of talked about this with the process of setting goals, the last aspect of um kind of going back to like what can I do today? How important can you touch on the importance of routine and how and that structure of having a game plan when you wake up? Even you kind of reference with you when you wake up and you'll start a day, and that's something that's a non-negotiable. What are some what does that look like? And how, well, first of all, what does that look like as well as for your whole scope of your day, knowing that you have things that you have to do things that other people are asking for you in order for you to go to work, pay bills, doing things like that, and finding your own balance. And how important is that with like putting together a plan for the day, and also like staying true to it and making sure that you have your own personal non-negotiables, and just the importance of routine.
I feel you. Okay, so it's really important for me. I have the type of personality that I have a personality and imagination. Let me just say that. So I have this imagination and this mind that is always working. So my imagination, as a matter of fact, my mother said that to my husband, you're gonna have to make room for her imagination. Like, okay. Um, I don't need a bunch of just free time, uncommitted time, because I can think of a lot of stuff to do. And I am a doer, a hustler, if you want to call it that. I'm a go-getter. And so I will completely overwhelm myself. I will work myself to the ground. So I have to have it's non-negotiable. They're for my safety. They're for my salvation. But the other piece of it is that we learn by repetition, learn by doing things over and over and over again, even if it's this simple kind of learning. Okay, I did that for 30 days straight, and there was no real positive impact in it. That's a lesson. So I'm not going to do that for 30 more days. But we learn by the repetition. So I learned how to stay organized. I learned how to get done what I need to get done. I learned how to fill myself up in the ways that I need to fill myself up to be able to go on in that repetition. And so I believe it's crucial. Some of us may be able to really have some flex time, but there again, that came back to I got to know who I am. I have to really be honest with me about who I am. I don't need a lot of free time. I'll be trying to get over to Japan somewhere and see something just because the time was free, and then not know how to get back. Okay. So take the repetition as a gift. I learned just two things out of whatever situation, one or two things out of whatever situation, or maybe sometimes both. What to do and what not to do. Sometimes I get both of them, but that structure, that repetition, one, it keeps me in lines. Two, I learn from it. I need to do it over and over again because I'm either learning how to get this done well, or I'm learning that this isn't working out well, and now I can move this off my plate. I hope that helps.
That was helpful. That was helpful.
This was great. Thank you so much, Gina, for your words of wisdom. This was amazing. And thank you as always, Jean. You were great. Hosting another one. We got another one.
Yeah,
If you have any questions that we didn't get a chance to get to, please email them to hello@mentorsofcolor.com and I can forward those over to Gina and see if we can get some answers to those. But thank you so much for attending. We appreciate you all being here. I hope that it was helpful and that we all gained some wisdom from this. And everyone, enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you.
Gina. Thanks, Gene.
Thank you. Appreciate you all. Take care. Thanks for joining us.